All right, I want to talk about rejection. Sometimes we see the word rejection and we think that rejection simply means that we should stop. But rejection is not a sign for you to stop. Rejection can sometimes be redirection. Rejection is an information that you get. So if people reject you, if institutions reject you, if a circle, a setting, a friend, or people reject you, it is not um, in some cases it is not an assessment that is accurate. In some cases it's actually an accurate assessment, and so it is now um, a feedback, like I said, an information for you to go back to the drawing board and then correct those mistakes, build on your capacity, right, so that you become better. I mean, there are stories of people who the first time they attempted doing something, they failed, but they didn't give up. They went back to the drawing board, they improved themselves and became better. The well-known athletes today, we talk about, glowingly talk about him, um, Usain Bolt. Before Usain Bolt became the global phenomenon that he is today, he failed several times running races at the international level. I think one of the races, I was watching a documentary about his rise, how in one of those races he came a distant third or a distant fifth or thereabout. He attempted up to 3 or 4 times before he eventually won his first gold at the international scene. And so rejection sometimes a um, is a report that tells you that you need to do more. You've not done enough. That's one thing that you should know. Another point that I want to talk about is that there is a gap between who you are and what people see. There is a gap between who you are and what people see. There are always two versions of who you are: who you believe you are and what the world currently sees. So you believe so much that you are capable of doing something, but people don't see that. In fact, even when they see a demonstration of that feat, because you are not known, you've not yet been seen on certain platforms, on certain, in certain avenues, and so on, they don't believe. And so it is your duty to keep building. Now, the difference between who you believe you are and what the world believes you are, what sits in that space is a gap. It's your duty to fill that gap. And how do you fill that gap? You fill that gap by taking steps. You fill that gap by building. And when I say building, I mean doing what you have to do. Whatever it is, your assignment, your purpose, whatever it is that you have been assigned to do. If you are an entrepreneur, a founder, you have a business idea, you continue building that, continue working on that idea, and then make sure that you don't just leave that idea at the ideation stage, right? Because the problem we often find is that many people keep over explaining. They keep over explaining, giving excuses why they have not been able to get results. And the world does not listen to explanations, to excuses. What the world listens to is results. That's what moves the world. Results, outcome. So you need to take note of that. Then stop trying to convince people. Stop trying to convince people. It's not your duty to convince people. Don't talk too much, explain again and again, trying to seek people's approval. Just roll up your sleeves and get to work. Roll up your sleeves and just get to work. Start doing what you're doing. Some people are very good at speaking. If you're a natural born speaker, look out for platforms where you can serve, where you can volunteer. Don't be fixated on how much they are going to pay you. Don't think about the benefits yet. Think about developing the skills that you have. Yes, it's possible that you're very good at what you do, but we keep learning throughout our lives. And so nobody gets to a point where they know it all. Now when you start volunteering or serving in different capacities, you begin to make yourself visible, and it is that visibility that would end up creating opportunities for you to solve the problems that people are going through, and that would of course make a difference in your life, right? Another point I want to talk about is that most people are not underestimated, they are underprepared. You hear people say things like, nobody believes in me. But the question you need to answer is, have you done enough to command belief? Have you done enough? Do you attend networking events? Have you built yourself? How many books have you read? Have you read autobiographies and memoirs of people in the field or the space that you aspire to grow in? Have you sought for mentorship? Mentorship may not necessarily be having a direct relationship with a mentor figure. You can be mentored by reading their books. So have you sought for those opportunities? Have you read books? Have you carried out research? Have you sought for like minds? Have you built something? Have you worked? Have you volunteered? These are very pertinent questions that you need to answer. Rejection is fuel. I think that should be the 5th point, if you use it correctly. Rejection can either it can weaken you, it can strengthen you. If you keep thinking nobody believes in me, they don't believe in me, you will shrink. If you think they don't see it yet, it's likely going to work. So when you say they don't see it yet, it means that you are still optimistic. You're building. So whatever it is, it could be a business, it could be in career. You're working in an organization where you have been making suggestions that would help to pivot the organization in the right direction, that could help the organization to 10x their numbers in terms of sales and other metrics of growth. But nobody sees your efforts because obviously they feel that what you're saying is in fact they don't believe in you for whatever reasons or whatever reason. That's not the time for you to begin to shrink. That's not the time for you to begin to say, you know what, I mean, there is no point, it's not necessary. That's the point for you to keep believing, because when the right time comes, you're already prepared. You see, one of the challenges that most people have always had is that because they failed again and again and again, they stop being prepared, they stop building capacity, and they just become depressed and then resign to fate. No, you don't resign to fate. You have to have a sense of ownership over the affairs of your life. God gave us agency for a reason. If you fail today, it is not in your place to ascribe failure to God, or to say that God is responsible for your failure, or to say that someone else is responsible. It's possible that external elements may have triggered or may have led to failure at certain point in time in your life, but you have to operate from a place of ownership and not victimhood. When you begin to act as a victim, begin to have this victim mentality or mindset, you will never be willing to take steps to come out of any challenge that you have faced. And then the next point, that's point 6, is that nobody owes you anything. In Africa, there is this saying, Ubuntu. Ubuntu talks about it talks about a sense of unity, sense of community, sense of oneness, and all that. You see yourself as your neighbor, and you are willing to reach out for someone. And Africa is a continent where most times people have this entitlement mentality. Oh, my brother doesn't want to help me, my uncle doesn't want to help me, that doesn't want to help me. The truth is that nobody owes you anything. And the earlier you realize that, the better. Nobody owes you anything. If you keep complaining how no one wants to help you, then you're certainly saying to yourself that you're not ready to grow. The 7th point I want to talk about, this may even shock you. Being underestimated is actually an advantage. This is something that most people don't understand. It's an advantage. And let me give you context. When people underestimate you, they don't have much time to look at you closely. They just rule you out. And so that gives you time for you to grow. So you are not being watched. You are not conscious of the fact that someone is looking at you if you are going to fail. You don't have this psychological burden that what if this doesn't work? Because they've already underestimated you. But when they don't underestimate you, they believe that you can do this thing, and then you fail trying to do it. That's where the pain, that's where the psychological burden becomes harrowing. That's where it becomes very difficult to deal with. But they don't believe that you can do this thing. They don't even expect anything from you. It's a fuel. It's an advantage. So it's like something that you use as a fuel to psych yourself, to build your mindset. And so you do your best. And then at the end of the day, wow, that was exceptional. You begin to hear things like that. I never expected that. Oh, I didn't know you can do this. I didn't know you can do that. That's how it works. So it is an advantage. The 8th point is that stop trying to prove anything. Start producing. Stop trying to prove anything. You're very intelligent, and so what? You're very brilliant, and so what? Don't try to show off. Don't try to prove anything to anybody. Start producing. You're good at singing. Start singing. Don't be telling stories of, oh, I remember when I was in the choir. I remember when I was very good at singing. I remember when I did this, I did that. Leave the past. It's never a good thing to keep dwelling on past glory. Yes, every now and then you may want to talk about it. Every now and then, every once in a while, but not. It shouldn't become your default setting that you run to every time. And then the point 9 is that convert rejection into discipline. Convert rejection into discipline. Don't use rejection emotionally. Don't get emotionally you become quite emotional about rejection, and then instead turn it into a better time use, sharper thinking, and then consistent output. All right. So because you were rejected, or you failed, or you experienced some form of failure, that's the time for you to become more detailed in your preparation, right? And then the last point is that sometimes rejection is feedback. Sometimes it is telling you that you are not yet ready. You are not yet ready. And it is not an insult. You are not ready. It's not an insult. So that's the time for you to go back to the drawing board and take steps to become better. So we've looked at 10 points on rejection. I hope this is going to speak to someone out there, so that you don't feel that you are not enough. You're actually enough, but you need to understand where you find yourself and take action based on facts, based on your experiences, while you apply these life principles that I have shared and talked about.